And joining me now is Democrat Terry Sewell of Alabama. She's a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Has been in there for most of these depositions. Congresswoman Sewell, welcome to Meet the Press.
Thanks.
Let me start with, we know you passed the next steps for the impeachment inquiry. Speaker Pelosi said she expects public hearings to start this month. What are we going to see at the public hearings, and how much of it is essentially going to be the best of what you've been seeing behind the scenes?
You know, Chuck, this is a sombering moment in America's history, and I think that those of us who have been reluctant participants, I represent a red state, I'm a blue dot in a red state, and frankly, I think that what really got me on the side of going to this inquiry was the fact that this president is interfering in our elections. He withheld important military assistance. He did so openly in his own admission. And I think that the American people deserve to hear the facts. And we need to follow the facts where they lead us. We need to be able to apply the law. And more importantly, we need transparency. And that's exactly what the vote was this past week. It was for transparency.
Have you heard enough in your mind that the president essentially should be indicted for this? I mean, that's what an article of impeachment is an indictment.
It is. But I can tell you that the evidence is mounting. I think that I think that the American people should hear the testimony of Ambassador Taylor. We just heard from a war hero, Mr. Venerman, recently, and I think that it's really important that we get to the bottom of this. To me, I've seen my Republican colleagues twist themselves into a pretzel in order to defend the indefensible. I think this is about right and wrong, and I think the American people understand right and wrong. And I think that it's important that we give to them, let them hear for themselves the testimony. And I think that we've already been presented with a lot of testimony that has been leaked or been the opening statements have been presented that has a very damning case against the president.
What role should public opinion play here?
Public opinion is everything. Speaker Pelosi often quotes Thomas Jefferson that it's all about public sentiment. So having said that, I think it's really important that we present in a deliberate fashion, which is what we're doing. When you think about it, we've only been doing this for 2 weeks, and we've already done 13. We've already had 13 witnesses come before us. We're working all throughout the district work period, which is why I'm here in Washington. I think it's really important that we do so in a deliberative fashion, but we do so expediently, because I think that the American people need to know that we are still working on their behalf when it comes to legislating.
It's interesting that you said public opinion is everything here. So do you feel as if you almost have two challenges? What you can lay out the case in perhaps in a court of law with 12 jurors, you can win your case. But there is, to me, a second bar you have to meet, which is what he did egregious enough that he shouldn't be allowed to be on the ballot in 2020? Is that a separate bar?
Well, I think that it's all connected is what I think. I think that it's important that the American people get to choose for themselves. But I also think that it's important that we we present the evidence to them in a way that they can understand it and hear it. You know, what's so appalling
Does that mean the Senate trial's weirdly irrelevant to you, that in some ways your job is to present the evidence and the public's going to react? And if they react harshly enough, the Senate may act. And instead, or maybe it's November. Is that sort of where you are? Well,
where I am is that I think that it's important that we make sure that this is not just about process. You know, the Republicans have been able to focus on process. That's because they can't really defend the truth of the evidence that's being presented in these investigations. And what's really, to me, damning is the fact that over 40 Republicans get to participate in the SCIF, like I do. 3 committees, 40 Republicans, over 40 of them, get to participate in this. And so I think that the vote last week was to remove the process argument and really focus on the truth. We should be able to present the truth in a way that the American people can understand it. And I think that I hope that the American people will understand that this is about abuse of power. You know, my district, the Alabama 7th Congressional District, people fought, died for the right to vote. To me, this is really about the soul of our democracy. It's about whether or not a president can ask a foreign power to actually investigate his political rivals and to withhold assistance. It's about national security. I think this is really an important moment in American history. Right. It's a somber moment in American history, and we want to make sure the American people understand the gravity, and they get to choose for themselves, but it's important that we present it in a way that they can understand it.
I want to play for you something Speaker Pelosi said on Friday about additional charges that could get filed. Take a listen.
There were 11 obstruction of justice provisions in the Mueller report. Perhaps some of them will be part of this, but again, that will be part of the inquiry.
So, would you prefer this to be focused solely on Ukraine, or do you think broadening it out to include some of the obstruction charges that were in the Mueller report is something that is worthy?
Well, I think that the most egregious charge to me is national security. And that's what I think we should focus on. That's how the Intelligence Committee got involved in this.
You'd keep it
I
narrow.
would narrow it. I would narrow it. Having said that, I think that the fact that the Mueller report did outline obstruction of justice, and we see in plain view this administration is doing everything to make sure that witnesses don't get a chance to come and be heard. And why are they hiding it? If they really have firm grounds to stand on, why are they so afraid to let witnesses come before us and tell their side?
Speaking of witnesses, John Eisenberg, do you
Yes.
expect him to actually testify Monday, or will that get blocked?
I don't know. I hope that he will testify. We're all here ready for his testimony to be presented tomorrow. This administration has done everything it can to hide the ball. And it begs the question, what are they trying to hide? I think that it's important that we stay focused on presenting the facts and applying the law and realizing that this is about our Constitution. This is about our constitutional responsibility.
Depositions, are they getting released this week? The transcripts of these depositions, there's been some thought they could get released this week. Should we expect that?
I think that you can expect, as the Speaker said, that it will be released sometime in November. I think that
Before the public hearings?
I would expect that it would be before the public hearings, but I'm not sure. I think that it's not about the timeline. I think it's about getting it right, making sure that we're presenting the facts to the American people.
One quick political question. There is a roaring debate in the Democratic Party between Medicare for All or taking Obamacare and expanding it. Which side of the aisle are you on this question?
I think that we should take the Affordable Care Act and expand it. You know, I represent Alabama, where I have a lot of access issues. There are so many Americans in my district that don't have any health care insurance.
So Medicare for all?
I'm all about making sure that we have access, universal access for all Americans.
Do you think Medicare for All is just too big of a step and start with Obamacare? Is that the reason?
I can tell you that many of my constituents in our town hall meetings want to keep if they have health insurance, they want to keep the health insurance that they have. We have 10 million Americans that don't have any coverage. We should be focused on that.
Terry Sewell, Democrat from Alabama, thanks for coming on and sharing.
Thank you so much,
Much
Chuck.
appreciated.